Okay, we're going live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this joint session of the Tompkins County Independent Redistricting Commission and the City of Ithaca Redistricting Working Group. My name is Hank DeLay, and I am the chair of both groups. I'm delighted that we're able to have both some of my colleagues from the commission here in person at the county legislature chambers, and others are participating via Zoom. We also have members of the City of Ithaca Working Group participating via Zoom, and I welcome them. I'm going to say a few words that I've said at our previous meetings, so that members of the public know what our intentions are. Redistricting is getting a lot of attention across the nation. Certainly is getting attention in Albany these days. Today we, I believe, have learned that the New York State Independent Redistricting Commission that was established pursuant to an amendment to the state constitution in 2014 has again been unable to present a unified report to the state legislature of redistricting congressional, Senate, and Assembly lines. Our objective here in Tompkins County and the City of Ithaca is to do the reverse, to have proposals for both the county and the city that are supported by everyone in both groups, and that we hope will be accepted by both the county legislature and the City of Ithaca. The criteria that we are following have been set forth both in statute at the state level and also in the Tompkins County Charter. The districts that we seek to establish, we want to do on the basis of fairness for everyone who is involved. The districts should be compact, contiguous, reflect communities of interest, reflect census blocks, and be consistent where we can with municipal boundaries. We do not look to have partisan preference of any type, nor preference for incumbents. At our previous meeting 2 weeks ago, we spoke briefly about a change in the municipal home rule law that was adopted by the state legislature, signed by the governor last year. And that change is decreasing the permitted percentage deviation from the average population in a district, whether it be for the county legislature or for the City of Ithaca, from 10% to 5%. I want to let everyone know that this was a surprise to not only us, but apparently to many counties across the state. There has been discussion among the County Officers Association as to whether this was intentional or not. And with the help of our county attorney, Mr. William Troy, we wrote to both Assembly Member Anna Kellis and State Senator Tom O'Mara, inquiring as to whether this change in the municipal home rule law was intentional or perhaps a so-called drafting error. I'm pleased to report that I heard back from Dr. Kellis that after discussions with the principal sponsors of the legislation in the State Assembly, it is clear that the action was indeed intentional. So we will be operating under that 5% standard in our work for both the county and the city. At this point, I think we have many of our members now online, and I would like to ask Brittany Greep, the Deputy Clerk of the County Legislature, to begin by calling the roll of the members of the County Independent Redistricting Commission.
Hank DeLay.
Here.
Carolyn Chang.
Here.
Chuck Nocera.
Here.
Elliot Emel.
Here.
Jan Vink.
Here.
Jeffrey True.
Here.
Marsha Lynch.
Here.
Margaret Hobby.
Here.
Vivek Iyer.
Here.
Thank you very much, Brittany. I'll now call the names of the members of the City of Ithaca Working Group. Hank DeLay, present. Seth Murtaugh. I know Mr. Murtaugh is not able to be with us this evening. Chris Prue.
Here.
There. Jared Pittman. Thought I saw Jared online, but
He's muted.
he's muted. Okay.
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
Terrific. Glad. Very good. And Katie Sims.
Here.
Thank you all very much. We're going to follow an agenda that has initial overviews of population changes given to us by the staff directors for both the County Commission and the City Working Group. So let me turn then to Mr. Greg Potter, the Director of Information Technologies for Tompkins County, who is serving as the staff director for the County Redistricting Commission to review the population changes for districts 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the county legislature. Greg?
Good evening, everyone. I'm gonna remember to share my screen this time.
Greg, before you proceed, can I just say one thing?
Yes.
Anybody who is waiting in the waiting room, I have promoted you to a panelist, but you have to accept. So if you're interested, go ahead and hit that join button.
Okay. Give me a minute here to start sharing. Okay. All right, I'm going to start off by just stating that the county has a website dedicated to this project. So if you go to the county's homepage, tompkinscountyny.gov, you'll get to the redistricting site by typing in redistricting. So it's tompkinscountyny.gov/redistricting. Just quickly to review what's on that site, in the upper left-hand corner is a subscribe option. So if you're interested in receiving updated information, then you can register to do so there, and we'll send out notifications on the updates of the project as it moves forward. And then all the information that we've currently organized for the current project is there along on the first block to the left, various scenarios and information about the project and links to the state redistricting bill, as well as the agendas and minutes for the current meetings. And I've also added the information from the previous redistricting project that happened in 2012 and all of the information about that, as well as the prior redistricting project that happened in 2000, if you want to go back that far and look at maps and scenarios for those two projects as well. So first off, I'll just give a quick overview of the current configuration. So we're going to look to the right of the map in the city of Ithaca. The focus for this evening, there are 4 legislative districts, 1 through 4, and you'll see the population that is based on the 2010 census count data there. And then the second map that I'm going to show you is a comparison of those same numbers for the legislative districts without changing any boundaries for the 2010 data and the percentages, and now the comparison to the 2020 census block count data as well. So you'll see that the numbers of the deviation far exceed the required 5% range that we're looking at. And therefore, we have to do something, particularly within the city of town, where the growth has been the most extensive based on the comparison between 2010 and 2020. The next slide I'm going to show you is that we have the option of changing the legislative district numbers in this process, and the mean population is calculated there. And I have to rerun this spreadsheet, but that's got to be changed to 2.5% adjustment, which I'll do shortly now that we know that the numbers that we're using is a 5% deviation instead of 10%. Then I've got the Board of Elections, if anybody's interested in digging that far. And I've got the city information, which I'm going to pass over to Ruth Aslanis, representing the mapping work for the city, to present that information. One particular note that we'll talk about here this evening that Ruth has got a better explanation of is that one of the biggest reasons that there's a huge deviation in population between District 2 and District 4 is the result of the Census Bureau remapping census block, which shifted over 1,000 population based on Cornell dorms on West Campus to District 4 from District 2. And so we'll review and zoom in on that as well, because that's a huge impact. So it's not necessarily a loss of or gain of population, but a shift of the block between one area to another on the border of those 2 districts. And that's really important for the county and the city project as we move forward.
Thank you very much, Greg. If I could now ask Ruth Aslanis, who is serving as the staff director for the City of Ithaca Working Group, to comment in the same way that Greg has just done on changes in population for the 5 wards in the City of Ithaca. Ruth?
Ruth,
Okay. Yeah, I got it. Thank you. I had to come back to it after pulling up the screen share. Are you able to see the map?
Yes.
Oh, very good. Okay. I was not able to see your map, Greg, but I'm familiar with it.
I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so so I'm going to talk about the 5 wards at the city, and on this map at the top, I have a chart. What I've done is taken the 2020 population and assigned it to the wards based on boundaries, which the blocks do map, except for this one area right here, which Greg just mentioned. I can say a little more about. If we look at the first ward on West Hill and South Hill, there's been a population change of 19% or so between 2010 and 2020. If we look at Ward 2, which is the downtown, a little bit of the south side and north side, that has changed only moderately for 112 people at 7%. If we look at Ward 3, we have a slight increase, only 2.7%. And we're going to see some difference in population in wards 4 and 5, and some of that I will explain. If we look at Ward 5, we're going to see that it has 853 fewer people, which is a 13.58% increase, and decrease. And some of that decrease has to do with how we had to assign this block here, because it used to be 3 blocks, and now in 2020 it's been consolidated into 1, and I've assigned it to 4, because that's how it will have to be assigned if you use it in Ward 4 in 2022. And consequently, on the Ward 4 side, we're showing an increase of 1260, which is greater than that little bit that was added in, of 19.92%. And what has happened is that this small section in here was consolidated into this larger block, and now is being counted in 2020. So some of that is offset. Some of that gain and loss between 4 and 5 is because of that, and some for Ward 4 is just a net gain, period. I'm sorry, Hank, what else did you ask me to talk about? I was figuring out why I wasn't seeing the screen.
Oh, no, Ruth, that's been just exactly what I hoped you would review for everybody. I would mention it's our understanding from the city attorney, Ari Levine, that if there is a consideration of any change, a major change in structure for the Common Council of the city, such as either reducing the number of wards from 5 to 4 as an example, or changing the number of members of Common Council from each ward from 2 to 1, that type of change would require a referendum to be held in November of 2022. I mentioned that because the timetable that would be followed in order to have such a referendum will require the city redistricting group to present to Common Council our proposal essentially no later than the end of April. That would accommodate then a timetable for the referendum to be noticed and all of the legal requirements associated with it to be followed. So this is a public input session. Public input is very important for us to have from members of the legislature of the county, members of Common Council, past perhaps members of both bodies, interested community organizations, and the general public. The rules are that, as Brittany has already mentioned to you, everybody is being promoted, so-called, as a panelist in order to be able to provide remarks this evening. We ask that you limit your remarks to 3 minutes. When not speaking, please leave your microphone muted. When participating in the meeting, please turn your camera on so that people can see you if that is at all possible. If your camera is off, you will not appear on the live stream on YouTube. We ask that all commission members and members of the city working group keep their cameras on at all times. I'm going to go down the list of people who have registered to submit comments, but I'm going to go a little bit out of order first to see if there are members of the county legislature from districts 1, 2, 3, and 4 who would like to make any comments to the commission this evening. At the moment, as I look at my screen, I don't see any county legislators from those districts. Where?
Veronica Pillar. She just.
Oh, I'm
she just
sorry.
raised her
Yes, I
hand.
see now the hand raised. Pardon me for not seeing you immediately. Veronica, would you like to share any views with the commission and the working group?
Sure, just briefly. And it's fine, I didn't raise my hand at first. I'm mostly just here to listen to the public and the working group. I can say, just from my perspective on my own district, in District 2, it has felt, and I think the previous legislator, I can't speak for her, but like agrees with me on this. The boundaries feel a little bit odd in that it cuts off what's traditionally considered a section of Fall Creek by having the boundary wander around the creek and then jut out along Farm Street. And then also correspondingly to include some of the Cornell freshman dorms feels a little like, and this might have to stay, but kind of incongruous the way the boundaries cut through sets of dorms. It's like cutting up some coherent populations and merging it with others. But it's not like a huge issue, and I don't have comments on the other districts or boundary lines.
Okay, thank you very much. Members of Common Council who are here, I see on my list Cynthia Brock. Cynthia, would you like to share any comments?
Thank you, Hank. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to all of you. I'm speaking very much from a city council perspective. I know the intent of the group is to, as much as possible, have county lines overlay with city lines, but my perspective will mainly be with regards to city representation. As you know, the student population is significant in the city. Nearly 2/3 of our population are college students. Most of these students have their services that are city services provided by the university. Everything from their roads, their sidewalks, building inspections, safety, zoning, police. They don't actually come to the city for city concerns and services because most of their activities are provided by the university. And what ends up happening is when we have wards that are predominantly made up of the student population, the representatives of those wards have a smaller constituency to which they are more responsive to. And those are primarily wards 3, 4, and 5. Of course, the College Town Ward 4 is more than 90% students, but even wards 3 and 5 are over 50% student populations, easily over 3,000 in each ward. So Ward 1 and 2 make up most of our long-term residents. There are no dorms in Ward 1 and 2. And Ward 1, as you can see from its design, has a lot of our really pressing issues. Our commercial industrial sites are in Ward 1. Every single traffic conduit into and out of the city goes through Ward 1. We have flooding, stormwater, infrastructure issues, sidewalk issues, recreation with regards to Cass Park. All of our industrial and or service facilities, our water treatment plant, wastewater treatment plant, solid waste facility, DPW are in Ward 1, Farmers Market, Waterfront Trail. So the level of constituent services that we need to provide the attention that it requires on the representatives of Ward 1 and 2. There's a lot of competition and time required. Many times, as you know, as elected officials, when issues strike, they are not one at a time. They are usually 2 or 3, 4 at a time. And then add on top of that all of the development concerns, zoning, new projects, all take time and attention. So I really encourage the committee to look at a more equitably distributing our student population across the different wards if possible, so that we can distribute these ability to represent our constituency. And just in addition to that, and I did send a lengthy email with maps and diagrams as well as a table in it earlier today. I also want to highlight that of our full-time resident population, our largest minority Black population is also in the West Hill and Flats area. And so making sure that we can keep a majority vote on council that represents our full-time residents as well as a minority population, I think is in the best interests of the city and our constituents. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. Anybody have any questions for Cynthia that they would like to raise? Okay, I see. Yes, Chuck Nocera.
I think we covered this last meeting, but so refresh me. The census data only represents individuals who consider themselves residents of the county, correct?
That's not necessarily true. The residents, the Cornell students, for instance, are counted in the dormitories as group quarters.
Okay.
And Cornell provides that information directly to the Census Bureau.
Okay.
So they're counted in Tompkins County, not their home residence.
As their home residents.
Yeah, they're counted in Tompkins County. So the population of Tompkins County should include the Cornell student population as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I believe we have another member of Common Council with us, Patrick Mailer. Patrick?
Thank you so much. And I appreciate your time. And for all those whom I've not yet to meet, my name is Patrick Mailer. I'm a representative of the 4th Ward for Common Council. And I have a couple of things I'd just like to share. The first of which is a firm assertion that the Cornell students are residents of Tompkins County. As was just noted, they are not counted in where their parents' location are. They are equally footed as opposed to with our permanent residents in the city of Ithaca. As the 4th Ward representative, I'm very appreciative to see that West Campus is being united. I know that's mostly for the city, but the isolation of Cook House from Becker, Rose, Keaton, Beta is much appreciated. For in a little bit of response to Alderperson Brock's email that she sent earlier today, I found it interesting to see that how much students' vote was interpreted within the redistricting at all, as the census is based on the population and not based on population voting. And so there are a host of reasons why students may not be as included within local politics as they might be in other areas. Until myself in October and Barbara Kentamel and Jorge Denfandini in the past 3 months, we hadn't had a student on Common Council since Eddie Rooker and Savante Myrick over a decade ago. And I found it a little crazy to suggest that we need to maintain and expand the representative voices of permanent residents on Common Council when 2/3 of the city represent students, and only until 3 months ago, we had at least one speaking on there. So similarly, the needs of some districts are not more or less than any of the other districts. I assure you that between the different wards, we all face a different assortment of issues. Cornell may provide housing and they may provide police for West Campus, but they don't for College Ave and Dryden Road. They don't for East Buffalo Street and Seneca Street or for Eddy Street. And there are literally thousands of residents who come with a different set of problems that they might not come to in different districts. So my overall just sort of testimony I'm hoping to present is that the consolidation of students is giving them a voice. It is giving them the opportunity to be represented in a local government, and diluting them across 4 or 5 different wards is only going to discourage their participation in our city government, which I believe we still desperately need more of. So I thank you all for your time. I appreciate especially the inclusion of Cook into the 4th Ward and having West Campus be a consolidated block. And I'd just like to remind everybody that this is not a permanent residence versus students type of situation. Students spend 9 to 12 months of their time in Ithaca, and even if they as individuals are not here beyond their 4th years, the type of student will still be here 100 years from now. And so I'm very appreciative of your time and consideration, and thank you. More than happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Patrick. Any questions for Patrick? If not, let me turn to yet another member of Common Council, Duck Nguyen. Duxon?
Mostly observing, thank you.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear your comment.
I'm mostly here to observe, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you for being with us this evening. Once again, looking at my screen, I don't see any other members of the county legislature from districts 1, 2, 3, and 4. So with that, let me begin going down the list of members of the public who registered to speak.
Hank, if I may,
Yes.
we have another member of council here, Robert
I'm looking.
Cantamo. Robert Cantamo represents Ward 5.
Okay, Robert.
Hi.
Sorry, I didn't see you on the previously registered list, so
That is
welcome.
quite all right. Similar to Duxon, I am just primarily here as an interested resident observer. I do represent the 5th Ward, Fall Creek, and Cornell Heights on council. The only thing I'd say at this time is I just want to thank the members of the public who are attending this evening. I appreciate your engagement, as well as the members of the county and the city redistricting commissions, because obviously this is really important work, and I look forward to watching the deliberations tonight.
Okay, thank you very much, Robert. Let me then begin going down the list of members of the public who registered in advance to speak this evening. I'll do so in the order in which they registered. The first on my list is Ed Swayze. Do I see Ed? Yeah. We're working through the technical challenges here.
Ed, you're still on mute.
Can you unmute? Nope. Still muted. We're trying to get Mr. Swayze. Well, let's move on a little bit. I'll try to come back to Mr. Swayze if we can. Next on my list is Linda Duttfeiler. Is she with us this evening? Okay, I don't see her.
She is hanging out in the waiting room.
She's in the waiting room.
She has no comments. She's just observing, she said.
Okay, thank you, Linda.
Ed is off.
Mr. Swayze, you're now unmuted.
Yes, thank you very much. I came a little late and I don't know if I had done all the registration that I should. I am involved with the Tompkins County Democratic Committee, chair of the city committee, and a resident of the second ward, and also on the second ward committee. And I'm happy to be here. I'm mostly to observe. And I don't see my video, so I don't know how to start it. But anyway, thank you very much for being here, everyone. And I'm very interested in what I've heard so far and looking forward to more. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us, Ed. Next on my list is Adella Edwards. Not sure is
She's in the waiting room also.
in the waiting room. What's going on in the waiting room? I start to wonder.
When I promote them to panelists, they have to click accept. I think she accepted. Yes.
There she is. Adella, if you would unmute. There we go. Welcome. Whoops.
I'm here as an observant only.
We can hear you. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm only observing. Thank you.
Only observing. Okay.
Yes. Very interesting.
Thank you for being with us. Next, then I have Michelle Wright.
Don't think she joined.
Okay. Next, Wilda Vanek. No. Next on my list, Sean Mongan. No.
Nope.
And the next good friend, Fran Manzella. Fran's not in the infamous waiting room, apparently.
Nope.
How about Lillian Baptist? No. Judy Pierpont. Okay. Sue Pearlgut. All these great people who signed up to register to be on camera with us. Judith Jones.
No.
No. William Futterman. No. Evie Weinstein. Sarah DeFrank. Okay, now I see somebody on the list. Sally Grubb. Thought I saw Sally before. There she is, right in the center of the screen. Welcome, Sally.
Welcome. I came just to observe. I was surprised to be made a panelist. I have no comments to make at this time. But thank you all for your work.
Well, thank you. We're glad to have everybody given an opportunity to speak when we're all here. So I appreciate those of you who are observers, but glad that we're able to open it up for everyone. Next on my list is Lauren O'Connell. No? Now I do see Francine Jasper. Ms. Jasper?
I'm here. Hello, I'm just here to observe. And-
Okay.
Right, the link changed just minutes before you went live, so perhaps that's why you've lost a lot of people.
Oh dear. Well, I hope not. I hope we find them at some point. Wandering around out there in the cold, it's tough. Thank you. Next, Andrew Garoppo. No. Eric Pritz. No. Ann Sullivan. No. Bill Browninger. He's in the waiting room?
Yes.
Okay. Can he come out? If he accepts. Give Mr. Browninger a moment to decide if he wants to accept. Well, let's move on for the moment. We'll see if Mr. Browninger comes back. I do see Sarah Hess. Sarah.
I also came sort of hoping that there would be some discussion about various boundaries and pros and cons of moving things around. But, you know, I did not expect to speak. I think the registration was a little confusing. Obviously, many people came to learn, but we're not expecting to voice opinions at this point. So thank you for inviting me to speak anyway.
Well, thank you, Sarah. As we've said, public input is what these particular sessions are about. That's why we have particularly sought to have possible input from current members of the county legislature and members of Common Council. And I very much appreciate the comments that we have received from those office holders because they have detailed knowledge about the existing boundaries, and some of them certainly have ideas as to how those might be adjusted. But the opportunity is there for the public to provide information to us as well. And once we finish the series of public input sessions, then the commission and the working group will begin discussing alternatives. But the opportunity for public input is what these particular sessions have been designed for. I've now gone through, unless Mr. Browninger is come out of the waiting room, I've gone through all the names on my list. Let me just ask if any other persons who are with us as now panelists would care to address the commission and the working group. This is an opportunity for you to do so.
Gwen Guo has her hand up.
Okay, I'm sorry, Gwen, yes, I see that. Up and please go ahead.
You can hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'm the Tompkins County Democrats ward chair for Ward 4. And I'm joining this meeting because I understand that we currently have the largest population of any of the city wards. And with the redistricting, there might be some change made. And I'm not here to advocate for or against any particular change, but I do think that I need to describe the situation in Ward 4. As Cynthia Brock said, there's an awful lot of students in Ward 4. She said 90%. That sounds about right. At the same time, we have a much lower voter turnout than any of the other wards. And you can go to the Board of Elections website and look at the numbers. In the city, the most recent city election for alderperson, which was contested, 119 people voted. That's out of, I don't know what, 8,000 or something, is it? So we have a situation where we have two council members now, Patrick Mailer and Jorge Defendini, who both come from Cornell backgrounds, and they are part of sort of the active Cornell students or former Cornell students who make a big difference here. We also have a very large population of Cornell students who are not going to be involved locally. And efforts are always made to reach them, but the voting numbers bear out the fact that we just have very low voter turnout here. And reaching students is always an interesting challenge because they often move away. So what I'm saying is that even though we have the largest numbers in population, but we have a small group of dedicated people who are willing to volunteer or serve our community in some capacity. And the burden is heavy on those who have to do so or who step up to do so. And if there is a cut into Ward 4 that cuts into our skeleton crew of people willing to help out, I think we're going to have a very hard time representing our ward in city and county politics.
Do you have any particular recommendation?
No, see, I'm just here to provide you guys with the situation, with our circumstances, describe it to you.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Gwen.
You're welcome.
And I saw Ann Corman, I see your hand raised.
Yes, thank you. I was unable to attend I think it was your last meeting, but I watched it on YouTube regarding this section, the west side of the lake. Can I just say a couple of comments quick?
Certainly.
So thank you for having that meeting, and I do concur with. I know you had a couple of people that made comments, and I do echo the comments that were made regarding the town of Enfield. So my district, or the district that I represent, is District 5. So it's the town of Ulysses, the village of Trumansburg, the northern third of Enfield, and a small portion of the town of Ithaca. So I do echo the sentiments that were said regarding Enfield, which is now broken up into two districts, of it not being broken up any further than that. And I also want to mention the town of Ithaca is broken up into, I think, at least 4 sections. So that's something I would like you to consider. And just another thing of this district, not only is it rural, it's huge, and I try and meet with my constituents if at all possible when they have an issue. So it's a big area, but it's also, I also try and relate and have good relationships and relay information back and forth to my municipalities. So I have the most of it. I'll stay back with the district. The District 5 has 4 municipalities. It's the most of any district for the legislature. So I just wanted to put that information out there as you do your deliberations. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Anne. From your perspective, I would say it's probably a good thing that districts have to be contiguous. Otherwise, there's always that possibility of going across the lake to Lansing and linking up Trumansburg. We wait for the bridge to make that possible, but thank you very much for being with us tonight. Any other members of the public who are with us who would like to address the commission and or the city working group?
Robert has his hand up. Robert Katoma.
Oh, Robert?
Yes, thank you. I do want to make a few comments on the discussion about student representation. So, as stated before by Cynthia, I do represent students in Ward 5 in Fall Creek, student housing in Cornell Heights, including rentals and Greek housing. And while I'm only recently elected, I did contact more than 1,000 homes during my campaign. Long-term residents, new residents, professional students, graduate students, undergraduates. And I would just ask that the commission balance the comments about student participation with two acknowledgements, right? One, that New York State at present has a primary system that disadvantages them for participation, right? If they are not residing in their university dorms, for example, during the June primary, it is not impossible for them to vote, but the barrier becomes much more difficult. And I think we can all agree we don't need, to really, I think we all have a good understanding of how adverse barriers to entry can be on population. And participation in voting is not, the only element of civic participation. I do think it's incumbent upon any elected leaders to actively, sort of seek out and find ways to cultivate participation in their neighborhoods and in their community. So I recognize that, voter turnout is an important metric, but there are sort of structural things beyond the reach of anybody on this call tonight to actually remediate some of those. And I would also just say, I also am a graduate student, admittedly, but I am a Cornell student. So there's 3 of us, actually, not 2.
Okay, thank you, Robert. Any comments from any of my colleagues on the commission? Margaret Hobby.
I have a question for Cynthia. Cynthia, how long have you been on council?
Margaret, can you speak into your microphone?
Oh, sorry.
I just moved it. Cynthia, you've been on council for more than 10 years, right?
This is my 11th year.
So you because before the wards, the city wards and the 5 districts within the city, I believe, overlapped completely. And I wondered, since you've experienced both, do you find it a disadvantage or does it not particularly make a difference that we now only have 4 districts? And of course, your ward is very much affected by that.
Well, I think it really comes to light most recently with the growing issue with regards to homelessness, addiction, mental health needs, especially among the homeless, making sure that county legislators are aware of the situations that we are facing in the city and be able to allocate the necessary resources needed to support that population is truly important. I have heard it said that there are some county legislators that think, well, this is a city issue and it's not really of their interest to support addressing those services. I do believe that the city does play a very significant role and deserves adequate representation and involvement in what is going on in the city. We are the county seat. We are actually the seat of the town of Ithaca. We have a lot of, our land is allocated to our primary and secondary schools. There is a lot that's going on in the city, and the fact that we only have 4 representatives instead of 5, I think does put the city at a disadvantage and our constituents at a disadvantage when it comes to necessary human and social services that the county provides.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments from members of the commission or the working group? I'll ask one more of Cynthia then, since she's been the focus of attention. Cynthia, Ward 1 is probably the least compact of all the wards in the city. Compactness is one of the criteria that we are obligated to consider in the shaping of districts. Do you have any comments in regard to that?
Yes, as I've identified, we don't have any dorms. We don't really have any high density housing projects in the city or in Ward 1. And as a result, we do encompass all of our parks and infrastructure and other areas in Ward 1. Just from a campaigning point of view, obviously you do a lot of walking. It takes a lot of effort to get out, get to know your constituents. The broad swath, just looking at the shape of Ward 1, it's stunning. Just when you consider just the sheer acreage, and between 2011 and now, Ward 1, I have represented almost 50% of the city at some point during the two designs of the district. It's very, very challenging. So it would be good to be able to have a smaller physical space to represent. And as a result of that, perhaps fewer issues to include with regards to Ward 1. I also want to add that 6 Mile Creek is in Ward 1.
The reason I ask is legislative district number 1 would be much more compact than Ward 1. Ward 1, if you look at just on the map, is almost would appear to some people as a gerrymandered district.
Right, we have no dense housing. There's no dense housing in Ward 1. And so as a result, you have very small Ward 4 and a very massive Ward 1 because we don't have density in Ward 1. So I don't know how we get that 5% limited to that 5% deviation if you don't somehow gerrymander West Hill and South Hill to attach onto some type of dense housing. There's just no way to get the numbers unless you're going to have a massive ward.
Okay, thank you. We have with us tonight as perhaps an observer, one of the commissioners from the Board of Elections here in person, and another commissioner, I believe, has been with us on Zoom. Would either Tamara Scott or Steve DeWitt want to make any comments?
I'm here mostly because I don't know if my mic is live.
Well, this one.
Yeah.
This one's
Over here?
Yeah.
I'm here mostly to observe in running elections and upcoming possible legislation that deals with the college campuses. It's advantageous from our standpoint if we, rather than having 3 legislative districts and 3 wards cutting into the campus itself, it could be less than that, but I know the population might prevent that. But if you could reduce it to 2, it would be better because if this new legislation that's passed the state Senate goes through, we will be probably adding, in the current way they're set up now, we would be adding probably 3 election districts. And that means we have to find more poll workers, which are very hard to find, and we have to, it creates a lot more work for us. So that's my main observation,
Okay, I'll just add then, my understanding is that the legislation you are referring to that has passed the Senate and has now been contained in Governor Hochul's budget bill that's pending before both the Senate and the Assembly,
right.
requires that for any college or university in the state that has 300 or more students registered to vote and residing on the contiguous campus of that college or university, that there must be a polling place on that campus for them. Now, that's not to say that for every 300 students, there has to be a polling place. But there is that threshold that once there is at least 300, there has to be a polling place for them. And so that's just so that the public understands what the statute or the potential statute is that you're referring to. The effective date of the Governor Hochul's budget bill dealing with this subject is January of 2024.
Right.
Okay. Okay, well, all right. Thank you all from the public very much for your comments. I'm sorry, Tamara, would you like to add anything? I'm sorry.
No, I don't need to add anything. Steve had good point we wanted to make. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Then moving along for the regular business of the County Commission. You have all received a copy of minutes from our meeting of January 11th. Can I have a motion to adopt them?
So moved.
So moved by Jeffrey True. Any comments or additions, recommendations? Chuck?
Just that the minutes show that I was present and I was not, I was remote.
Oh, but we always feel that you're here, Chuck. I mean, all right. So all in favor of their adoptions, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Bill Troy has something.
Bill Troy.
Unless my
okay.
memory is truly deteriorated, I believe I was at that meeting. My name's not shown here. I don't know if that's necessary.
You were at that first meeting, yes. Sat right up here at the end. Or was that the second meeting? Second meeting, perhaps you were.
I was remote on the second.
Meeting was remote. That's
Yes.
right.
You need a seconder.
Okay. So once again, all in favor? Aye, with that amendment?
Aye.
Approved, thank you. The future schedule for the meetings of the County Independent Redistricting Commission. We have 2 more public input sessions scheduled. The first will be on February 8th, 5:30 p.m. We have invited, given the important sector of the population that students make up in Tompkins County, we have reached out to student organizations at Cornell, Ithaca College, and Tompkins Cortland Community College, inviting them to come and speak to the County Commission. Redistricting is a subject that is of considerable importance, and I think we ought to provide students with an opportunity to participate in this process at the local level. On February 22nd at 5:30 p.m., we will hold a public input session dealing with the towns and villages on the east and southern sides of the lake, from Lansing, town of Groton, village of Groton, town of Dryden, Village of Dryden, Town of Ithaca, Village of Cayuga Heights, Danby, and Caroline. I think I've covered all of them with that list.
Village of Freeville.
Village of Freeville, each time, there's one more to go. But that will be the focus of our public input session on February 22nd. I will look around and ask again if any of our colleagues from either the county commission or the city working group have any final remarks that they would like to offer. Hearing none, I'll take a motion to, Jeff, Vice Chairman.
Hank, do you have a schedule for the city's meetings upcoming and what their timetables are?
The next meeting of the city group will be next week, and we haven't set a full agenda for it as yet.
And is it your hope that the city will be done by the same time frame that we will be done by, and that is end of April?
Yes, because they have a potentially greater pressure on them for the election timetable. Timetable for the county commission, let's face it, with the next election in 2025, it's not quite as pressing. But I would certainly like to see both arrived at the same time. Okay, a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Thank you. We are adjourned.